always hear about like Abraham. We hear about Adam. One time we hear about Eve is when because she caused us to sin. She ruined the whole human race, which it wasn't true. It was Adam. You know, Eve made a mistake. But if you look at the titles of them, what's Eve's? Do y'all remember what Eve's title is?
Mother of all living.
Mother of all living. So that's everything that's living. Eve is the title. Anybody in any race, any nation, any country, Eve has the title of being a mother of them. Then you go down through a little bit further there and you find Sarah. Now Abraham gets the big thing, but you remember Abraham would have been nothing without Sarah. Because if Sarah would have bucked up on him a couple of times, it probably would have saved him a little bit of trouble, but she always called him Lord. You know. But before Sarah, there was Noah. What about Noah's wife? She doesn't even get a name. But she's the mother of all nations. All nations will flow through Noah's wife.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yes. So she's the mother of all living. All nations flow through Noah's wife. Abraham's wife Sarah, she's the mother of the nation. The chosen nation.
Who was Eve?
Huh?
Mother of what?
All living.
All living?
Yeah, she's the mother of all living.
That's June.
Noah's wife is the mother of all nations. Sarah is the mother of the nation. You know, I think about that. You know, Eve, they didn't know death except through animals. And she had to be the very first one to suffer through the death of her child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, I know it affects fathers, don't get me wrong, I understand that it does. But it affects mothers. I know my mother, she couldn't talk about my brothers that were passed away without holding her belly. She had to hold her belly every time because I guess that connection there is something we don't know. I mean, it's just think about it. If men had to take care of the babies most of the time, they'd never be potty trained and they'd probably starve to death. You know. But so you have Eve, she's the mother of all living. Noah's wife's the mother of all nations. You have Sarah, she's the mother of the nation. Now within that nation, you have, was it Rebecca or Rachel first? My mind just went blank. Rebecca married Isaac, right? Rebecca, she's the mother of the 12. She's the mother of the 2, which is the mother of Jacob, which is the mother, and then he married Rachel and Leah, and then had the 2 husbands, and they're the mother of the 12. Without mothers, God couldn't have wrote this Bible. Without mothers, none of us would be here. If it was up to men to carry children, there wouldn't be any children. We'd have died out early. God has put a special gift in the mother, the ability to create or procreate, the ability to carry on life. That's why it says that you shall be saved in childbirth. He's not saying that you're going to be saved and go to heaven through childbirth. He's saying that the race is going to be saved. We were made to live forever. But sin has cursed us. And the only way that we can live forever now is by birth. And he gave that gift to mothers. Everything that was godly and good in man was given to the woman. The things like the caring and nurture. Like, I can watch a show, and some things choke me up and stuff like that, but Nita feels things. You understand what I'm saying? And so, I mean, everything that, think about it. As a child, where did you go for nurture? Mom. Think about it. Ruth was a Moabitess, but she brought the nurture to Israel. Naomi, she went out when troubles got bad. She went out with her husband. She came back. What did she say? She said, don't call me no more this. Call me that. Call me bitterness. But Ruth, she because they were so strict. They were following the laws to the letter. But she, in her goodness and kindness, brought tenderness to the nation. And by her sacrifice of saying, "Go where thou go, and your God will be my God," she was also blessed to be the one that had David in her life. We go through these things, and the problem with it is motherhood is not celebrated today. Motherhood is something that's set aside, something that you do secondary because your job is the most important thing, and supporting your family is the most important thing, or being sexy is the most important thing. But motherhood is set to the side. It's not as important. But without motherhood, what is it? Most people, when they have children today, I was reading the statistics on it, and they said most things, when a woman gets pregnant, the first thing she thinks is, should I have an abortion? I don't know how they get that statistic, but yeah, that's one of the first common things to say. So the one who brings the child has become the murderer of the child. Over 60 million children were killed from 70s to 2000s by mothers. Because they were taught and trained that being a mother was a secondary thing when it's the most glorious thing you could be. Look, God gave 4 institutions. He gave volition, free will. Then he gave marriage. And the third thing is family. And you can't be a family without a mother. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be the mother of the child, literally, but you bring the motherhood in by your nurture and nature. There's so many people out there that have none of that. But God has set a mother up to teach you more about God than anything else. Have you ever thought about that? Where did you learn first thing about God? Your mother. Who taught you about love? Taught you how to act, how to talk, how to walk. It's always been the mother. Now, I'm not saying dads can't do it, but I'm saying it's natural for a woman. It's not so natural for a man. You know, I've never heard a woman say, when you're 18, you're getting out. You know? But dad's waiting for 18, you know. Most of them. Have you thought about that? Most women would have their children with them all their lives. Most women. Yeah. You know, because they want to grow with them, you know. And look, if the partner, if the son loves the daughter, loves the wife, the mother loves the wife. If the son's mad at the wife, then the wife's the most horrible thing that ever walked on this earth. Right? Is that how it works? Yeah. Mom always seen my side of it. You know? So, I mean, the thing about it is motherhood is the thing that keeps us going. Motherhood is the thing that God uses. It was motherhood that God used to bring the Savior. Of all the ways he could have done it, he chose a little 13, 14-year-old girl, peasant girl, out in the middle of the backside, northern Israel, where the Gentiles had taken over and was running everything, and he chose her to bring Christ into the world. He chose her to be the vehicle for salvation. Now, she wasn't salvation, but salvation came through that child. That salvation came for the nation, but then it also came for us. And if it wasn't for a mother, there wouldn't have been salvation. Have you ever thought of that? Now, she's not the queen of heaven. She wasn't sinless. She had children after she had Jesus. She was just a woman. But she was a woman that was willing. A woman that was willing to do what God, because what did the guy say to her in the temple? A sword shall pierce your heart also. She was willing to go through the pain not only of bringing him in, but the pain of losing you for her nation. When we look at a woman and we look at a mother, it's in contrast to what usually goes on today. You see, I was fixing axes yesterday, and I don't know if you remember, if y'all know anything much about fixing axes. You know, you sharpen the axe with the file. You clean the axe, and then when you're putting the handles on axes, you look at that axe handle and you check and make sure the grain is, because if the grain's like this and the head's like this, what's going to happen when you use that axe? It's going to break. You have to have the grain lined up. You have to have the axe head sharpened. You have to have it in geometry that when it lays down, it lays at a certain part on that axe to the handle. That's what mothers do. Just think what would happen if you let your children do whatever they wanted to. They would be hellions. Mothers are the things that sharpen the child. Mothers are the things that lay the grain straight in that handle so that they can be useful to God and to the world. But the opposite of that is a woman who doesn't care, who only feasts upon pleasure. We have an epidemic of that today. Children are set aside or had just for monetary convenience instead of having them to nurture and to grow. Motherhood is in short supply today. Grandparenthood is in short supply today. Why? Because people want to live their own lives. Well, guess what? When you get to the end of it, you're still dead. The only thing that you can leave is what you put in that child. Whether it be righteousness or sinfulness. I was watching something the other day, and the girl was a mom, 3 kids, and she supplied the household with OnlyFans. Wouldn't you love to be the child of that, coming across something like that? But you know, the thing about it is I remember when I was a kid, and my mama would be home. She'd sacrifice for us. And then her sisters, and my dad's sisters, their kids would be home and they would be in the bar. Who do you think had better kids when they come out at the end of it? Now understand, we did bad things, we did stupid things, but it wasn't because of my mother. It was because of the sin that was in us. She never led the example of being that. And that's what being a mother is leading the example, to lead the child to God. You find out your foundation is set by the time you're 5. Who you are and who you're going to be by the time you're 5. Your personality is set. And if there's no mother in there to guiding, a true mother, a true nourisher, a true spirit that's helping lead you, it's very hard to change that line. That's the reason most people are saved by the time they're 12. And if they're not saved by the time they're 12, they're probably never saved at all. So when Satan attacks, first off, he attacks our free will, saying, well, you can do what you want. Then he attacks the marriage, saying, well, you don't need to be married. You can just live together. Now, understanding being married is sexual copulation, right? That's what it is. Isaac took Rebekah and they went into a tent, and after that they were married. But the thing about it is, the ceremony that we have, by the laws that we have, we should have marriage in this nation because we follow the government. Romans 13. But we say, oh, we can live together. That way, if it doesn't work out, there's no penalty. So the father's not really a father, whether the mother's the mother or not. Does that make sense? Well, we should just try it out. And what's the problem with that is when you do that, the person that you live with is not the person you marry. Have y'all ever been in that experience? Because they're going to do what they do because there's no way to keep you. There's no way to punish you if you're just living together. But when you're married, then they got you. working, Nita was working, there was girls that come through there, and they would have been like on 5th or 6th husband. Because they'd marry, they'd have a kid, and they'd divorce them. So they could pay. And to live the lifestyle they wanted to by using their children for profit. That's not being a mother. What is it to be a mother? Does it mean you can't go out and work? Does it mean that you have to be enslaved to a man? Is that being a mother? What's being a mother? Being a mother is laying down your life. It's a perfect picture of Christ. Because as a mother, you voluntarily lay down your life, your hopes, your dreams, and you bestow that love into another. That's what Christ did on the cross for us. He set aside all of his glory, set aside all of his rule, humbled himself, and became a man. It's humbling being a mother. I've never been a mother, but I've seen mothers. It's humbling. And when he was there, he gave himself all for us. And a true mother gives herself all for the child. Remember Haggai out in the desert? She went out there, and when it got to where there was no hope at all, she put herself aside from the child. She didn't care that she died. She didn't want to see him die. Remember the widow with Elijah? He went there, and what was she doing? She was preparing a little bit of meal to feed herself and her son, so they may perish. She didn't feed it. Now there was the ones that King Solomon came by where they said, "Hey, we're having a King Solomon." Can't remember which one it was. Anyway, one of the kings in the Bible, they came across. They were having a siege, and they were. The two prostitutes had children and said, "Hey, we'll cook your child today, and we'll eat it, and then tomorrow we'll cook your other child." And they wouldn't agree. So they ate the child, and the next day, the other one didn't. That's not a mother. Or the mother of the one that had the women that was Solomon, when they had the two babies, and one died in crib death, and the other one was still alive, and she took and snuck the baby out and switched them. And they said, "Okay, well, we're just going to cut it in half." And the mother said, "Hey, let her have it." You see, the mother's willing to sacrifice for the life of the child, just like Christ was willing to sacrifice for us. It's something that I tell you, I hate doing these things because I don't understand what it is to be a mother. And I never will understand what it is to be a mother. I know what it is to have a mother. And to have somebody that would sacrifice all their dreams for my dreams, and her dream was my dream. Does that make sense? She set aside what she thought her dreams would be, so that we could all 12 of us, could have our dreams. And she was content with that. I seen the look of hurt and pain every year as the anniversaries of the death of her children before me that happened. They were still her children. She never did forget it. She knew the date. You could tell I knew the date because of how she acted that day. She couldn't even hardly celebrate Christmas because she lost one in Christmas, but she sacrificed through and cried in private so that the rest of us could have Christmas. Because there was no joy in it anymore for her. Because all she's seen is little Clyde boy laying on the ground. The closest picture that you'll get of God in this world is a true mother with a child. That's the kind of love and beyond. I mean, Nita loves me, but if there's a bear or a lion, she's leaving. But if it was one of her babies or grandbabies, she'd fight to the death. But in contrast to that, what we have is women who've decided and taken that their wants and their needs are more than the mother. And that God really only talks about two different types of women in the Bible. It's mothers and whores. Do what?
And men want us to be both.
Yeah. Yeah. Only for them. They don't want you to be it for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing about it is look, I was watching a show the other day. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it had a sex scene in it. And I was thinking, what would you do if your child watched you? You see what I'm saying? How do you justify that? Oh, well, it's just acting. Well, you're still naked. You're basically prostituting yourself for a paycheck. So how do we honor mothers today? You know, how's the best way to do it? The best way to do it, I believe, is to be praying for those that are out there who don't know yet, who don't understand yet, who are not there yet. That God would give them the desire to know their word so that they can be mothers like that. Because we're losing them. Do you know, I know mothers that punish their kids and not let them go to church as a punishment. Well, you're not going to go to church because you didn't clean your room up. Can you imagine that? And then by the time the child gets past that 12 years old, and what they do, they don't have any desire to know church. It's a dying thing to be a mother in the Western civilization because it's so filled with everything else. And mothers that are mothers, thank you. And understand, mothers, that when children do stupid things and you've done your best, it's not your fault. We have our own sin nature. We have our own failures. We have our own psychological problems. You can't blame that on yourself if you've done your part. I know, how many of you have your mothers living today? How many of you just can't wait till when the time you get to see them again? I've lost my dad just recently, but I want to see my mom. Because as a stupid kid, you never tell her just how much she means to you and how appreciated you are and how thankful we are for putting up with us. So mothers, thank you. Thank you for the life that you brought and the gifts that you bring. Even if you've never had a child, you still can be a mother. Because you never know what you bring in someone's life. And you never know when that time when they have the greatest temptation or the greatest point, that it may be turned